Hey, welcome to the Raising Mothers podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kahn. I'm a wife, mama to two, and a certified conscious parent coach practitioner. It is my mission to raise mothers to transform their mind, soul, and family. Sis, you are not here by accident. If you are here, it means you're ready to heal inner wounds, detach from deeply rooted thoughts and beliefs, recognize the root beneath behaviors, deeply connect with your child, love the child in front of you, become the mother you dream of, the mother you were created to be, and the mother your children need. Let's get started. All right, you guys, I literally could not be more honored and excited to share my girl, Kendra Williams, with you. From the moment she slid into my DMs on the gram, I absolutely loved her, and I knew at some point I had to share her with you guys because I knew you would love her too. Kendra is a mama to two. She is also a certified conscious parenting coach practitioner who also went through Dr. Shefali's Coaching Institute. And she is an expert on all things matrescence, which is going to be our main focus for today's episode. Kendra is hysterical. She is wildly entertaining, and she is as real and authentic as they come. She is a truth teller and has this incredible way of guiding and educating new mothers as they navigate their shifting identities and motherhood. As Kendra says, she helps blend the old you and the new you. So welcome, Kendra. I am so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much. And I wish that you could just read that bio to me every morning and I could start my day off with this amazing intro. Thank you for that. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here too. And just so everyone knows, so Kendra and I, we went through the same Conscious Parenting Coach Institute in different cohorts. And we were on an alumni call one day and we saw each other and she slid into my DMs and we were voice texting. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wish I would have met her sooner. She is so rad. And like I said in the intro, just super authentic. And you guys, how she shows up on Instagram will leave you feeling empowered and having a sense of like understanding of like, wow, what I'm going through is normal. So definitely I'll have her share at the end where you can find her on Instagram, but you are just such a light. And so I'm so excited to have you here to share all your knowledge.
Thank you. It's going to be like having two friends in your ear because we actually are friends. Ever since I literally slid into your DMs, I was just like, oh, this person is a conscious parenting coach and a real person. I think there's this idea that out there that if you're a conscious parent or a coach, you must be whimsical and very overly soft. And I was like, well, this is a real person. And the connection just started from there. So the love is mutual, Ashley.
Aw, thanks, babe. Okay, so let's dive into it. Matrescence. When you and I, so we met in our DMs, but when we had our first Zoom call, we were kind of like sharing like where we were at, where we were going. And you shared with me this word matrescence that I had never heard. And I wanted this episode to be focused on that because I feel like many, many people have never heard it. But once you understand what it is, the light bulbs go off and you're like, oh my gosh. And especially as a new mom, this is huge. Yeah. So share with us, what is matrescence?
Yes. So matrescence, like adolescence, the term that it's modeled after, is a developmental time in your life. What that really means is it's a process of becoming more you. So it's like right now you have your baby or you adopt your baby and you put the mom hat on and you get that mom title instantly. And we're expected and kind of it's understood that we're going to be fully embodied moms overnight. I'm a mom now. Everything should come easily, naturally. I should know what to do. But when you have an understanding of matrescence that, oh, it actually takes time to psychologically adjust to the role of mom. And also everything else in your life is going to adjust. Your relationship, your friendships, what you talk about with your friends, the amount of time you spend with your friends, your career goals may come into question, your values. It has nothing to do with a baby. And it has everything to do with you moving from, the term would be maiden, from your maidenhood to your motherhood. And It can take years for it to be front and centered and be really processed. The other piece I want to mention is that matrescence is a term like postpartum. It really does last a lifetime. And the best way to think about it is every single time the mom hat gets put front and center, you're going to go through this big developmental time in your own personal life. So
yes,
it gets kicked off by the baby. Think of it, this is my favorite analogy. When you were a girl becoming a woman and you got we're going to go into real feminine stuff right now. When you get your period, it's a symbol of you becoming a woman. You're entering your womanhood. And we all know that it takes time. And the baby is the symbol and it's the beginning of your matrescence. So just having this awareness that, oh my gosh, this is a process. I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. I'm not doing anything wrong, is, I think, foundational to when we talk about family planning, conscious parenting, anything. Matrescence should be one of those words that everyone knows about.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm so excited that you're talking to us about it today. And I love how you mentioned, once you have this understanding that it's a process and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. It's kind of like this weight is lifted off your shoulders, because all too often, especially culture, the culture says you're a woman. You should know what to do as soon as that baby comes out. And while you might know how to change a diaper, maybe make a bottle, breastfeeding doesn't always come easy. And there's so many changes that happen within you. And so to have this awareness that, holy crap, like, I don't have to all of a sudden change at night, that it is a process and it's a really coming home to yourself.
Yeah, it is the way that I see it. And in my own personal story, it truly is a spiritual awakening. You might really feel the effects of matrescence on your body because, we live in the bounce back culture. What's going on? My body's supposed to be the same. Or, you were a career woman and now you're like, well, I don't want to travel. I want the job. I don't want to travel. And so how does that take me out of the game? And maybe it's the career that really starts is your entry point. But what matrescence really does is it says, what do I want to bring forth from my maidenhood? Do I want to bring these values, these friends, this relationship? And what do I want to add to it now? And at the end, when you're over the big hurdle, the big hump of it, you're like, wow, I'm more me than I've ever been. I thought I knew who I was back then. It's like the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It's like, you're a butterfly now. It's a you, but it's very different.
Tell us a little bit about your journey and how it brought you to conscious parenting and matrescence. Because I hear you talk all the time about your process in matrescence too. So if you could share some of your journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey really started with my son, obviously, because I had a child, but he is neurodivergent. And what that really did was call into question, one, all of my expectations of what motherhood was going to be like, all of the expectations of what my son was going to be like, all of the expectations of how I was going to be as a mother. And I'll be honest, none of them lined up. My reality was so far from my expectations. And a bigger part of my backstory is I never wanted to be a mom. It was never part of my plan. I never dreamt of getting married or having a family. So this was a good and a bad thing because I didn't have really specific expectations. Like some people know exactly how they want to raise their kids and what they want to do. And I didn't have specifics, but I had the basics. I'll be honest, I was expecting a neurotypical child. I took that as the baseline. And I was in the conscious parenting world, my ego was raging. Why didn't I get the hard child? Why didn't the mom down the street who always wanted kids, who wanted 10 kids, get this one? And then that's how I found conscious parenting, was how do I reconcile all of these, at the time I thought shameful, horrible thoughts. And I was just not accepting my reality, and conscious parenting essentially found me because I couldn't outplan my son. I couldn't win. I couldn't fix him. And when you can't fix things, you have to ultimately surrender and try something new. So I found conscious parenting, and it changed my entire life. It changed my marriage, my friendships, the relationship with my mother, everything. And that's why I ultimately was like, this is so profound. I want to help other people do it. And I found Shefali's Institute.
Nice.
So that's what brought me to conscious parenting, was the unexpected experience with my first child.
I love that. It's so crazy. Conscious parenting, you learn so many really ways of becoming aware of all of your thoughts, your beliefs, expectations, how you think things should be, and really learn to recognize that those all come from, certain ways that we grew up and certain wounds that we have. And it's really a processing of us like starting to heal. And when we do, it's so crazy how, like you mentioned, your relationship with your husband changed, your mom changed. It's like this whole philosophy of like just the most amazing way to live and how to truly authentically connect with like your children and everyone else around you, but most importantly yourself. And it's funny how you said, conscious parenting found you. I feel like it often comes to you at the right time when you're ready for it, because the same thing for me. So what about
matrescence? Well, I just want to finish on conscious parenting. I think on social media, especially, there's gentle, positive, respectful, conscious. And I always say conscious, I don't think many people even know what conscious parenting is. It's conscious living. It's just the biggest triggers are often our kids. And so it's the parenting triggers are there, but it is a philosophy and a lifestyle. And I picked up that you said it's a way of living. And I conscious parent myself. I conscious parent my husband. I conscious parent everyone. I'm looking to connect and be present. And no one chooses conscious parenting right out the gates, because it's not fun and it's not easy. And it takes so much intention. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say the ones that it has to choose you. That's where I was going to go with that. It's like, it has to choose you, or else you're like, no, I'll find some other way to get through the day. I'll find some other way to handle this tantrum, because that seems like way too much work. It's only when it gets so quote unquote bad or so far away from your expectations, maybe, that you're like, okay, I must surrender to something.
I was just going to say, going back to what you said, once you realized you couldn't fix your child, you surrendered. That's what it's all about in life anyways. Like, we always try to have this, like, and me included, and I am still like a recovering perfectionist and control freak. So I every day have to surrender and realize, like, oh my God, I can't fix this. Like, this is here in my life for a reason. What do I need to surrender to, and what do I need to heal to? And ultimately, everyone gets a point in their life where it's like, you can no longer fix and control things. And, to live consciously is the most liberating way to live, because it sheds the expectations, sheds the pressure. You realize, like, there really is no right or wrong way to do things. It's all about like realigning to yourself, because we all have the answers within us. And I feel like matrescence kind of brings that out in you. Would you say that's correct, or in alignment with matrescence?
Absolutely. I find that sometimes I say conscious parenting and doing the inner child work is the trauma of the past. Well, usually trauma is all in the past. It's the trauma of the past. Matrescence is the trauma of motherhood. And I know that's not painted in a really positive light, but if we don't know that a part of us we're in a rebirth, a part of us is no longer to be moving forward. We are losing the maiden. We are moving into mother. If we don't know that we are supposed to transform, if we don't know that it takes time, and we are being gaslit essentially by society and ourselves, what's wrong with me? And why don't I love every second? And why isn't this natural? And all of the ways, that's the trauma of now. And the trigger, like, motherhood is the trigger, not just your children, but motherhood in itself. One of the theories in matrescence is something called the maternal mandate. And it's not something we all signed up for, but it is this unconscious contract that us women sign up for when we become mothers. No matter how independent and feminist and amazing go-getters we are, unconsciously, a lot of us are subscribing to these 4 things. 1, every woman wants to be a mother. 2, it's going to be easy for you to get pregnant. Birth is going to come naturally. You're not going to need any interventions. And then the act of mothering, the instincts will kick in immediately, and you're going to know what to do. these are running through our unconscious from the moment we find out we're pregnant. They're like, my body knows what to do. I know what to do. And then what happens when you've not been around babies your entire life? Like, I don't care if you babysat when you were a teenager. Mothering is an invisible skill. No, I don't see people. Everyone's so ashamed of getting shamed for a toddler tantrum at Target. We don't see mothers mothering. There is no instinct because mothering is a learned skill. But we have this unconscious pattern like, holy shit, I'm supposed to know all this. There's this magical switch is going to flip as soon as the baby comes out. And then that, if you plug it into conscious parenting, that's the trigger. And what are those expectations real? Are those yours? How do we want to soothe ourselves? How do we want to get support and handle this right now? So, I mean, there's so many different things like the maternal mandate that I just shared about how it's all going to be natural and enjoyable, that if we could just say, hey, it's not all natural. It's not all enjoyable. How much shame and guilt could that lift off of our shoulders immediately if we really, really got that? This isn't just lip service, like truly get that.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when my kids were little, I remember them like, you know, Diesel was in the superhero phase, and then Gianna used to like to dress up too. And they would used to be like, Mom, like play superheroes with me, or let's play like princesses. And I literally my skin would crawl and I would think like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Like imaginary play to me was a form of torture, because I'm like, I can't do it. But when I was younger too, like I never was an imaginative play. And you know that there's a whole backstory there, but it's like one of those things that you're expected, like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Every mom should be able to be like, yes, like I'm a superhero today, or whatever it is. And I would often have that thought like, oh my gosh, like there's something so wrong with me that play is so hard. And I used to keep myself busy 24/7 with the kids out of the house doing things, because the thought of being at home and playing was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to poke my eyes out.
Yeah.
But it just, every mom is different. Every human is different. And these expectations and ideas of what we should be or should be doing really messes with you, because if you're not that type of mom that culture paints, you naturally have this feeling of what's wrong with me. And I love the matrescence thing, because it's like, there is nothing wrong with you. It's this process of becoming. And for me, I really had to like get to the root of why it's so hard for me to play. Why can't I let loose? Oh, because I like to have control, and it's hard for me to just be. I love how you brought that up.
Yeah, I always remind women that mother is a noun and a verb. And that's my like regular people talk of doing versus being, masculine and feminine, that you by noun, you are a mom, just like your child is whole and complete and worthy just by breathing. You are an amazing embodied mom because you are a mom. The doing part, the verb, is what we all have in our minds. A good mom does the cleaning, does the cooking, does the nurturing, does the discipline, does the da-da-da-da-da. And by design, we'll never complete the doing, because the days restart, the laundry fills up, the dishes fill up, there's another activity. We'll never get the A+ if you focus on the doing. Right. And there's a lot of inner child work and all the things to get to the being. But I find that this is a really good entry point to be like, oh, I am a mom, and then I mother. Like those are two separate things. It sounds small, but it actually, I find that is very impactful for people to start unvelcroing what their expectations and worth are.
Yes, I love that. And so what I kind of hear you saying is not be attached to the doing part of mother for your worth or validating who you are as a person. You could still be a great mom and not love to clean or always have the laundry done.
Yeah, that's a big part of matrescence, actually, is the doing versus being. All of us women who are probably listening to this podcast too, we were raised, you could do whatever you want. You could be whatever you want. You're just like the boys. You could be anything. And it always meant doing something, achieving something, and a lot of independence in the people that I work with too. So when you come into motherhood and there's no raises, there's no rewards, your babies aren't saying thank you while you're wiping their butts for years. You're like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to feel good doing this? So motherhood and matrescence is really asking you to self-source your worth. Not that we don't need other people's validation and we don't need the community, but wow, we're really being asked to stand in our power when it literally is just wiping butts in the feminine being. Like being present with my kid during a tantrum is strength and it's leadership, but I don't get any rewards for it. There's so much in the doing versus being, or the masculine energy and the feminine energy that we are faced with in matrescence. And to your point, a lot of it just comes with control. I need to control the nap schedule. I need to control what they eat. I need to control, because that at least gives us, look, honey, look how productive I was. Okay, we've got him on a schedule. Look, I'm doing quote unquote good, when there is no measurement for this whole mothering thing. And that's the frustrating part and the beautiful part.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to bring up too. There is no measuring point, because I think on social media these days, it's so easy to scroll the gram and be like, wow, look at her amazing, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, or gosh, I wish I could, communicate with my kids like that, or I wish my kids were doing this or that, or I wish I was more like her and working out more. And obviously everyone has acknowledged that the gram is highlight reels, but there is no measurement for motherhood. I love how you brought that up, because you do the best you can every day, and that is good enough.
It really is. And we haven't been told that. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like pre-motherhood, we haven't been told that. I mean, that's what us conscious, gentle parents are trying to do to our children now. But we've got to give ourselves the grace to be like, wow, your whole life was about getting the reward. And there was a finish line, and you got to it or not. Did you get the job or not? Did you get the raise? Did you get the boy? And that's a whole, even if you have the most quote unquote easy kid who sleeps through the night instantly, it's a rough adjustment to be like, oh, you're my barometer for joy and worth and connectedness are totally flipped on its head.
Yes.
I find that conscious parents usually have the quote unquote harder kids, aka the ones that won't listen the first time. It's like they choose us so we can do all this work. And that's going back to my story. I'm like, I would have never done the healing. If my son was a job, I would have quit him 1,000%. Way too hard. I would get another job and I would do good at that one. I was like, holy shit, this is the first thing in my life. I can't manipulate the circumstances. Mm-hmm. I guess it's me. I gotta start manipulating, aka healing and shedding the layers and the facade and all the things.
Yep. I feel, same story here. But that is the beautiful thing about our kids, and the amazing gift that they can give us is having these awarenesses and awakening moments and being like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think that's why. So I found conscious parenting because I felt like I was forced to find a different way to parent, different way to do everything. And then it changed, like I mentioned, so much of my life. I literally felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what in the world did I just go through? And that was terribly hard and painful, but wow, I've never been happier. I've never been more confident. I've never felt more me, more aligned. And then I found the word matrescence, and I'm like, oh, that's what I just went through. And I feel like I say I got hazed by matrescence because it hit every area of my life. Like my husband and I split up. We ended up getting back together. I gained 30 pounds in like 6 months, and then I had to lose that. And that's actually started my coaching business because people were like, how are you losing the weight? My body was gone. My relationship was gone. My career was gone. And just everything, I literally was burned to the ground. And everyone else, I'm like, oh, you're only struggling with your body? What's wrong with me? I just want to struggle with one area of life right now, just one. And And then once I understood matrescence and was like, wow, this was an actual process. And I just went through like an extreme version of it, but we all go through this. I found that conscious parenting and matrescence, I feel like, are like the winning support formula for mothers, because there is no step-by-step method. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to guide you, support you, and actually give you the tools that go, oh yeah, you really do make sense. And I really did make sense. And the matrescence is getting you here into the present. This is the trauma of now. Can I get you present? Let me give you some grace. And then when the big triggers come up, we do the conscious parenting work. So those are like my two toolboxes that I wish I had 6 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So, so powerful. It's just so rad to see you intertwine the two, because it is so powerful and so healing and so liberating and freeing. Like you said, you like rose from the ashes. Like that is powerful. And it's just so cool to be able to do this work, because that's available to everybody. I feel like a lot of the times moms, especially new moms, like you feel like you said you were in the ashes, you were in the trenches, and you just feel like you are drowning with no way out. And there is a way out, like the best way out. And what's on the other side is even better than where you came from. So it's like, I just love this work.
Yeah, it's interesting. Conscious parenting, as you know, there are tools, and we can practice living more consciously and try to connect to the present moment. Matrescence really is a true awareness, where it's not that I'm going to give you an assignment, or anyone has an assignment, like here's the 5 steps to like crush your matrescence. It's just letting you know what might be on the horizon, and not in a like, oh, you just better wait. I mean, social media is full of, you have a cute baby that sleeps through the night, wait until they turn 2. It's like, oh man, that is not the village that we want to be building. But I find the first 2 years, unless you have a neurotypical or a child with like any type of special needs, the first 2 years, it's matrescence focused. It's adjusting. How's your relationship adjusting to being up at night? How are you connecting with your husband? Relationships tank in the first 3 years of parenthood because there's just so much shifting around. The first 2 years, having an awareness of all of the different things is helpful. And then once you get to age 2 or 3, beyond that, the conscious parenting really does take center stage. And the only time matrescence comes back in is when you have a big life event. So for a lot of people, I started off by saying when the mom hat gets put front and center, it's whether you have a baby, or when you go back to work because you just got a routine. Now you're adjusting to your whole life being a working mom. Another one is when your kids start school, if there's a divorce, if there's a death. When that mom hat is like all hands on deck, it usually shifts not just your parenting, but like, okay, I'm not going to hang out with my friends that much. I need to lean on this person. Who am I? I don't have any fun anymore. Where can I anchor? And so you go, oh, I'm going through another cycle of matrescence right now. Okay. It really is this beautiful awareness.
Mm-hmm. And it helps, like, I just feel like as you're talking, like I keep just getting this sense of like, you're okay. Like there is just nothing wrong. And every season happens for a reason. And as you're going through it, it's all a part of your personal journey and growth. And like we were saying earlier, shedding the need to control and fix and coming to this point of surrender, I feel allows you to not easily go through a season, because all seasons create have a different version of you, or, has healing and growing and all that kind of stuff. But it helps take off this pressure that something's wrong and makes you aware, like, okay, here we go again. We're just entering a new season. And this is good. Yeah. This is normal. And, and it kind of like, as you're talking, it kind of gets me excited, like, awesome. Like what's going to be on the other side of this? And I might feel like I'm in the ashes right now, but beauty comes from ashes, and I'm going to rise. And there's hope. Like that's what I keep hearing, like as you talk about matrescence, like there is hope. You don't have to stay stuck in this place. Like it educates you of like what's happening, where you're at, but gives you this hope that you don't stay there. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so accurate. I love that you're talking about seasons. We touched on this right before we hopped on the podcast. It's another huge area of understanding when it comes to matrescence. Us feminine beings. I was one of the ones when I had my period before that I just took a pill because I just wanted to have no period, or I wanted to know I wanted to control my cycle. I wanted to know what was going on. And just like we know the cycles, the periods always come back around, just like the moon cycles always come back around, just like winter, fall, spring, summer, they all come back around. Motherhood is cyclical. Feminine energy, it is all cyclical. And I say to the newer mothers who just had their babies, you're in a winter. You are in a winter. And winter doesn't mean bad. It just means we're a little more withdrawn. We're in rest. We're in recovery. And then every winter is followed by spring. And so it's good to just say, hey, what season am I in right now? Feels like a winter, feels like a summer. Everything's going great. All of the therapy I did's paying off. My child's finally sleeping through the night. I'm in a freaking summer, and celebrate your summer. Knowing that you've earned this and it's part of the cycle. And then this comes in with accepting where you are. It also comes in with self-care. There's another weird social media thing where people like, shower isn't self-care. Basic care isn't self-care. And I'm like, listen, hottie toddies, if someone's just had a baby and they're nursing every 2 hours and there's a shower is like a 5-star luxury resort.
Hell yeah.
Do not shame the mom for taking a shower. And it's seasonal. And when you're in a summer, a 5-star resort is the self-care. But when you're in a winter, it's different. So you get to look at your life when you have that lens. It's like, oh, one, yes, I make so much sense. And we all know, don't compare yourself to social media, but then you can use that language. Wow, Ashley looks like she's in a summer. I'm really so fucking happy for her. You can say, I'm in a winter and I know my spring's coming. I know it's coming because as sure as the sun comes up every day and my period keeps coming, it's going to come around. And so that helps you surrender. What is being planted in the spring? What can I focus on right now that I can see the fruits of labor instead of being like, I need it now. I need my husband to do the work now. I need my body to be perfect now. Oh, no, we just had a baby. We're in a winter. We're coming out. And I find that I see women's shoulders just go, that makes so much sense. It's like we were just never taught about womanhood, motherhood. And then we hear these words and it's like this big soul hug. Like, oh my gosh, I'm right on track.
I absolutely love how you broke it down into seasons. I love that because just as the seasons come and go, they don't rush from one season to the next. Like as soon as spring is done, like it knows when summer starts. If you live in an area where you see like the leaves change, like almost to the calendar day of the first day of fall, you see the leaves changing. And having this awareness that we too go through these seasons kind of helps you to take a deep breath and not rush the process, surrender to where you are. And I was going to say, enjoy the season, although we all know that winter sometimes is really freaking shitty. But knowing that what's happening in the winter is going to prepare you to enjoy the spring and party in the summer. And just, me personally, I think it was like a week ago, I told my husband, I'm like, something's wrong with me. Like there's something wrong with me. I feel off. I don't feel myself. Like something is happening. And I caught myself. I'm like, Ashley, there is nothing wrong with you. You're just I didn't even think of to put it in a season, but now as you're talking, I'm like, I am in winter. I am in the deep winter in the basement, and I just like have my cup of coffee in a blanket, and I'm just like, what is happening? And I love how you put it like that because it's like, I'm not going to rush it because I know as I'm going through this season right now, whatever is internally changing within me is meant to be and preparing me for what's to come too. So I love that analogy because it gives you a sense, like you said, your clients, you can see their shoulders relax. It does. It's like, okay, it's all part of the plan.
Yeah. And to your point, like fall, summer's fun. We all love summer. And then you're like, oh, it's fall. Like the leaves are fall. Everything's dying. It feels like that. We need to replenish the soil. just like every season does serve not its purpose just for that day, but for the future. And if you live, I live in Colorado. I actually have 4 seasons. I'm from California, so I never had seasons before this. But I'm like, God, it is so beautiful to watch it out my window and know that I literally am part of nature. You are part of nature. We forget that we are human beings, animals, part of the cycle, the circle of life. I know I'm getting really cheesy now, but when you can connect into that, you're like, whoa, this is all in this divine plan. And it is, at the end, it's all going to be okay. It's all serving a purpose. I'm not saying if you're going through absolute hardship or abuse that there's a purpose there. I just want to caveat that.
Yeah.
But there are learnings and lessons that are building on your personal foundation, uncovering deeper and deeper layers of your true essence. And we need all the seasons, or else it just wouldn't exist.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's all bringing you back to you, because, you know, early childhood, past experiences, relationships, we get so disconnected from ourselves. So I feel like these seasons are all a part of the healing process to bring you back to you, which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Really.
I just love talking about seasons. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's, you know, speaking of like a part of nature and all that kind of stuff, you know, in the winter, we start doing like soups and like all that stuff, because it's like, really, that's what our body like craves and thrives on during those seasons. So it is so intricately woven together and so connected. We're just so busy that we aren't aware of it. I know I wasn't. If, you know, 8 years ago before I started on this journey, I would have been like, okay, but it is.
All right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I love talking about winter for mothers, definitely 6 months postpartum, like in the first trimester and a little bit further, because like you want, your body literally needs nourishment, rest, recovery. It's the most extreme physical winter we systematically have in motherhood. The rest of them are more emotional winters, new things being activated, maybe kids going to school or if something's going on, but it's really powerful to give to women who are first time new mothers. Be like, oh, because we hear of meal trains for support, but we don't actually get, like, think of yourself warm and cozy. You and your baby in the bubble, just cozying. That's productive, because that's what winter does. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. It's so beautiful. We've been talking about matrescence and new moms. There are so many different family dynamics. And so does matrescence also apply to, say, parents who have adopted or parents who have gone through the surrogate process? What does a matrescence look like for different family dynamics that aren't, if you don't physically birth your baby?
Yeah. Matrescence happens to every single woman in those situations. It could be birthed, adopted, fostered, bonus kid you marry in, and now you've got, it doesn't matter if they're 4 years old, 11, 15. I say, whenever you put a new mom hat on, that's a new matrescence. And for same-sex marriages or partnerships, I want to say matrescence affects women. So much of matrescence and the unconscious expectations are gendered. It's sexist and patriarchal. So there is a term that's been coined in blogs that hasn't been well researched called patrescence. But so much of matrescence is navigating, okay, how do we be superwoman? Look, you can do it all and be one of the men. We also expect you to be the 1950s mother, perfect mother. Men actually make more money when they become fathers. Women make less. There's the maternal wall, which is, yes, we want women in high level positions in companies, but there's very few who are mothers. So we're hitting the maternal wall. Men, again, do not hit the paternal wall. So it is a very gendered experience in a society that up until right now, at least, we don't really value the act of mothering. We value productivity. We value doing. So inherently, it means that what we do doesn't matter on the larger scale. And that's where so much of the awareness of, oh, I am battling a system. It's not me, it's the system. And how do I decide how I want to define motherhood for myself outside of that? It's not about take the system down and F the man. It's wait, why am I playing your game? And so any woman who takes on a child in any way is going to go through matrescence. The one thing I haven't said is it doesn't have to be an entire life burning to the ground. I experienced it like that. I work with the clients who experience it like that. But some people, like think of adolescence. You get your period, and some women, their bodies blossom. They don't get the acne, and like they're the popular ones. And other women, it's just acne and blah. No one's supporting them and telling them about their bodies. It's a universal experience. Some people sail through, some people struggle. It does not need to be a struggle, even though this whole time we've been talking about kind of the more negative or jarring effects of it.
Right. I think that's such a important topic and point to bring up. Just having this awareness of what's happening, the extent of what's happening to you can vary so much from person to person. And would you say it has a lot to do with like their own story and childhood or environment they grew up in as well, like the intensity that they experience these things?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I typically work with type A women. I find that it's the people who are so kind of winning at the game of life that we've been told this is the game, it's the doing game. For career women, when they're losing their career identities or having to split, they feel that, okay, well, I'm a mom and now I'm old me. Like that inner split is really predominant with the quote unquote go-getters, like women who wanted to be mothers their whole lives and are younger mothers. They're not going to feel that inner split as much because they haven't, one, lived it as long, and two, they never made their careers or their outer world as much of their identity as other women.
That makes so much sense.
The childhood stuff plays into conscious parenting more. I think it's always better to try and heal your trauma and find yourself before parenthood, but there's no such thing because parenthood unlocks new levels. It's just healing is a never-ending journey. So I think awareness is the biggest determining factor, and not childhood for kind of navigating matrescence.
I love that. Yeah, parenthood is the gift that keeps on giving.
Seriously, I'm done receiving these gifts. Just kidding.
It's so true though. I mean, my kids are now in the teen years, and I feel like, I'm in a new season of adolescence or matrescence because it's this leaning in, yet letting go. And who am I now that my kids don't need me? Like sometimes I find myself, they're busy with their stuff around the house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they really don't need me physically to do very much for them anymore. Like when they're at home, they can make their own food, they can use the bathroom on their own, So, all that to say, parenthood is a gift that keeps giving, because every season really does kind of like open you up to be like, a new shift, new adjustments, new awarenesses.
Yeah. I would say you're in another season of matrescence. And you probably know this. What is it? The 3 C's? Like when your kids, like 1 to 7, you're the caretaker. 7 or teens, you're the coach. And then when they're adults, you're like the counselor. Like if you've built the foundation, is it the 3 C's? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay. So when you jump, you're fully in like coach mode. And you're a coach, but like you're like, shoot, you don't need me all the time. Like I'm here to help you out. I'm still here to guide you, but oh no, it's more about me now. So you are in a new cycle in that sense, for sure.
Oh, totally. And I feel it. Like I said earlier, like I just feel like I'm in this winter. And obviously completely vulnerable. There are some really like times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this feels so weird and so uncomfortable. But knowing it's a season is like, okay, we're going to get through this one too.
Yeah. And your kids are older. You could look back and look at the seasons. Like you have proof you've made it through those the mother winters. You have proof that spring comes. each cycle you go through is like, oh yeah, I've done that. I've done that. It's going to feel the texture is going to be a little bit different, but you're like, oh yeah, that's where you really got to step into your power is, I think, viewing it with that lens. You're like, I'm not going to be perfect at everything, but like, I know I got this. We're going to be okay.
Absolutely. And I don't know if when we had our graduation, I think Shefali said this at the graduation where she talked about like fertilizer, or was that at the Evolve? Do you remember that? Maybe it was at the Evolve, the conference part, but she gave this analogy. She's like, when you're, gonna grow something new, you have to put the manure down, and really manure is shit. But if you don't have the shit, then nothing grows. And so, every new season, there's gonna be shit, but something beautiful is gonna grow from it. And I loved that analogy because I was like, one, it's funny and hilarious. Everyone can relate to it. But it's so true.
Yeah. It is. And it reminds me of the fall. I mean, every season has shit, but from the fall to spring, when you're like literally watching everything die, you're like, I'm disconnecting from my husband. Everything's falling apart. Yeah, that is literally nourishing the ground, which is when the seeds get planted. And you're like, I'm fucking buried. There is no light. Is there anything growing in this manure? I can't see it, but that's what happens every winter. And it's not until, don't dig at the ground. You are planted. Yes. Spring is when you see the benefit of it. And it's like, yeah, oh my gosh, I need the shit. I'm stuck in the darkness. But if you rephrase it like that, you're like, okay, I get it. Totally. Plant me again, life. I get it.
Yes. And when you're going through these seasons, it is like so valuable and so life-giving when you have a community to go through these seasons with. A tribe of mothers who, can hold you up and support you and, make you feel like you're not alone. And so I would just encourage like any mom, like there are villages out there. Kendra has a village. I have a village. Like we're all a part of the same village essentially, but whoever you can connect with, prioritize building this community or being a part of a community, because it's hard to go through things alone. And when you have a village or community, it makes the walking through it so much more better.
I had 3 coaching calls today, and it came up in every single one about the village. And something that's super clear to me is that we associate the village with babysitting. We associate the village with baby help, especially if you're a younger mother. I know you're in your kids are in your teens, but it's like, who's supposed to help me with this baby? And it's like, no, the village is for the baby, yeah, but really more for you and your husband or whoever your partner is. Think about literally when we lived in communities, the term matrescence was only coined in the 70s by an anthropologist. Her name was Dana Raphael. But before that, this information was shared and whispered in the village. We would have been, oh, honey, yeah, this is going to happen. Oh yeah, my relationship went to shit in the hut too. It's coming back around. Like we would have whispered that in the community. And the other part of that is we started off by saying mother is an invisible skill. Like we don't see mothering in the wild. And if we do, it's not real mothering because we're also worried about other people's judgment. Mothering is a learned skill. And if we had that, what am I trying to say? It's not about being able to drop your kids off at someone's house. It's about having them over to your house. Messy house. Just come over. Let's have our kids go crazy together. And then you can see how they parent. They can see how you parent. And your kids can look at authority or look up in the village and see other people to respect other than just you and your partner. So think of the village for you. Who can truly celebrate you without judgment? Who can you vent to, again, without judgment? Those are the most important parts of your village. And yes, we want baby help, but it's going to do so much more for your mental health and your baby's developing nervous system if you have a space to vent and celebrate. I think it's both. This today is so hard. I want to burn the house down. My kids are annoying. Can I return them? Also, I just handled that tantrum like a boss. Like, I need someone for both of those. It's like so powerful.
Absolutely. Because two things could be true at once, right? You could be having a hard time and be joyful about where you're at also. And we were made to connect, and we were made to not do this alone. And so community is everything. And I know, that is one thing about today's culture. Everyone is just in their own little box, doing their own little thing, and we're not connecting with one another. And that creates isolation, and that makes people feel alone and like there's something wrong if they are going through things. And so my heart is just, if you don't have that community, it is out there. And you also have to be open to inviting people into your little village. Sometimes, people don't know that you want to be invited. And so invite others into yours. But to really make a community is everything in motherhood.
Can I add one more thing about the village? When it comes to, I call it mom dating. There's the Peanut app, which is a free app. You literally put your age, your kid's age, and it goes off your geography, and you can meet new women in your network. But if you don't want to go that route, I always say it literally is like dating. Like if you just met someone, you're back in your 20s, you're a free agent, you text somebody when you're thinking about them. This doesn't need to be, I need to clean my house and have a play date. I need to get everybody on a perfect schedule so we can go to the park. Sometimes it's just, hey, Ashley, I was thinking about you today. And like no expectations of a response, but those really small things that they actually end up being really huge in building the connection that builds the village is just those kind of thinking of you texts. And I know it sounds silly, but it's so profound. If you just get someone texting you, you're like, oh man, I was having a totally crap day. And Ashley was like, hey, I heard this song. It made me think of you from that one time. Like, hope you're having a good day. That is powerful. I just love that little tip. Just the little love note.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. It does. It makes you feel awesome when you get those little messages. Especially when you feel so alone sometimes, especially in the new beginnings of motherhood too. And feel like you're surviving. Those messages are life-giving.
They are, yeah.
Okay, before we go, I'd love to ask the guests 2 questions. So question number 1, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger mama self?
I would say you had no idea what you were walking into, and you did so well. You did the absolute best that you could, and it makes sense that you felt like you were struggling and that there was something wrong. And I'm so proud of you for showing up and for reaching out for help. Like you did an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job.
I love that. That makes me want to cry. That is so beautiful. Okay, second question for you. What is one thing that you want other mamas to know?
The first thing that comes up is there is no one way to be a good mom. There's your way. Just like there's no one way to parent. Each one of your kids is different. And that uniqueness is what's beautiful.
That was fire. I love that. So good.
Thanks.
And mic drop.
Thank you. It's so true.
It is. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You are just such a light, and I love everything that you shared. It's so heartfelt. Like I said in the beginning, you are just so real and authentic, and it's easy to love you. Where can people find you?
Thank you for saying that. I can be found on TikTok and Instagram at its.KendraWilliams, and my website is kendra-williams.com. I currently offer one-on-one coaching, and I'll be opening up group coaching because of the sisterhood and community in the new year. I just think it's so powerful to see other women say the things that you thought no one else was thinking. And right now, people think I'm the only, Kendra must be, I just found the one girl that says it the way I say it. And I'm like, nah, mama, all of us are saying it like this. So yeah, it's Kendra Williams. Follow me along. I talk about matrescence and conscious parenting all day. That's where you can find me.
I love it. And I will put all of that in the show notes so people can easily find you. Again, thank you so much, girl, for joining us. And I'm sure we will do this again soon. I am literally so excited that you took the time to hang out with me in this space, and I would absolutely love to connect with you more. You can find me over on Instagram at ashleycahn.co. That's ASHLEYKAHN.co, or visit me on my website at ashleycahn.co. If this episode spoke to your soul and you know some mama friends that could use it, screenshot this episode, tag us on Instagram, and share it with everyone who needs it. Love what you heard? It would absolutely mean the world to me if you left a 5-star review. Okay, mama, this is just the beginning.